Welcome, everybody, to Stabilize and Mobilize, a class that really focuses on learning how to internally create the support for your muscles and through your connective tissue to help you feel more secure, more balanced, and stronger. Okay? I'm going to ask everybody in this class to come to a seat, whatever kind of seat you have. If you are using the floor, you want to be able to sit on something that, if possible, allows your knees to be slightly lower than your hips. So we don't want our knees up here. That will defeat the purpose of what you're going to try to work on. For me, I have this little throw pillow, and I'm going to fold it in half to give me a little bit more support in my pelvic bowl. And the reason to do that is if you sit high enough, the pelvis begins to rotate. So the femur heads come backwards as the torso lifts upwards. And you do this even if you're sitting in a chair or sitting on the edge of a bed, wherever you are. If you're sitting, your knees are slightly lower than your hips. Same concept. So if you are somebody who works all day at a computer, really important to make sure that your knees are lower than your hip bones, because that will allow the spine, which is what we're going to work on today in this class, will allow your spine to lengthen. And as the spine lengthens, your pelvis is placed in such a way that it allows the spine to lengthen. And when the spine lengthens, you feel tall, you feel supported, and you feel pulled in and grounded, which is what helps us to create the stability that allows us to gain mobility. All right. So wherever you are in your sitting practice, feel your ischium bones. Those are the sit bones at the base of your buttocks. Now, I don't need you to press down or anything. I just want you to place your hands right under the rib cage. And if you go to the center, it's really hollow here. If you push in right below your breastbone, it's really hollow. Your fingers can like almost swish in. But if you bring your fingers a little bit further out, you can feel like it's a little ropiness, a little muscle there. That's what I want you just to put your hands there. And as you exhale and you're pulling the belly in, you're going to feel this area lift up. So what we are not doing, and I'm going to turn sideways for you to see this, is what we're not doing is this. We're not trying to tip our upper body and our head back. What we're actually trying to do is to lift from the sit bones up through the psoas. This is the top of the psoas muscle. So as I exhale and I pull the navel center in, I feel the pelvis rotating. And therefore, the back is in neutral. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the floor. With that happening, the spine lengthens. So now take your palms, rest them on your thighs, and either palms up or palms down. Totally up to you. Your elbows are right at your waist. Okay? And I just want you to take a moment with your eyes soft to the tip of your nose or your eyes closed. I'd like you to just pay attention to what the sensations are in your body, whatever they may be. Some of you will begin to feel the grounding of those ischium tuberosities, the sit bones, pressing down into the floor. Some of you might not only just feel the navel center pulling in and up, lifting your spine. Some of you might feel like you're pulling the shoulders up. Attempt to keep the shoulders down. Attempt to pull the belly in, pressing down and lifting up. Okay? So yoga is known as the law of opposites. So as I press down, I lift up. If I hunch over, I collapse all of these muscles, putting pressure on your pelvis. This is what creates the pushing out of and creating a prolapsed bladder, a prolapsed uterus, poor posture, lower back issues, rounding of the shoulders, neck muscles getting tight. So today we really want to work to try to figure out how to create support and length in the spine. Okay? All right. So with that being said, keeping your eyes closed or your eyes soft, bring your attention to the navel center. And notice the gentle wave of the inhalation expanding the belly out and the exhalation pulling the belly in. Just let the natural occurrence of your breath be felt. You don't have to try to do anything here. You're just noticing what is. You're noticing the sensations that you feel in your body. And you're sensing the breath moving within you, expanding and contracting. Now, open your eyes, but keep your eyes soft to the tip of your nose. Contract the navel center. Feel that top of the psoas lifting. Notice what you feel in your inner thighs. Maybe you don't feel anything, but you might feel a little pull there, a little stretching going on. And I don't like to use the word pull. I don't use it lightly because a pull is not a good thing, but you feel something, maybe feeling tight, and we'll get into releasing that from all the sitting that you might have done today or standing or working in the garden or whatever it is you did. But press down and lift up, and then inhale your arms right out to the sides. Now, just take a moment here. You can keep your palms down or you can turn your palms up. And just notice that as you exhale, can you press your sit bones down and feel the spine lengthening? Then turn your palms up and reach to the heavens and stretch one side longer than the other. Then we'll take the right hand down to the floor and we're going to hinge over to the right. Press your sit bones down, lift through the heart, and notice how the collarbones open. Turn your eye gaze through towards your left armpit and breathe into your left rib cage, feeling it expand and contract. And then inhale up and exhale to the other side. So there's this relationship between the contraction of the pulling in and the grounding of the sit bones lifting your heart, but dropping your shoulders and shoulder blades as you breathe into your right rib cage. So it is this action that we want to pay attention to. It is this action that supports and stabilizes all the muscles in the body. Inhale up, exhale, release. Inhale the arms up, turn your palms up, reach up once again, stretch again. Notice if there's any slight change. Then interlace your hands and turn your palms to the ceiling. Bring your elbows behind you. And then exhale, bring your hands down behind your head. Press your sit bones, lift through the top of the psoas. Feel the contraction in the lower abdomen. And then exhale, lower your arms down behind your head. Keep your hands interlaced. Inhale up, drop your shoulders and shoulder blades. Exhale down. Notice what's easy for you, but also notice where your body struggles. It's the places that struggle. Release, straighten your legs, and rock your legs out and in. It is the places where your body struggles that you want to pay attention to. The things that are easy, the things that you can do well, okay. It's always good to do, right? It always feels right. But it's also important to notice where your body doesn't always feel that way. So we're going to come onto our backs and let's release everything that we were just working on. So move what's in your way. And notice here, if you want a little cushion under your head, you're welcome to have it. Keep the feet hip-width apart in parallel. And now just begin to allow the tailbone to let go. It had to do a lot of work to press down and lift up. So now we're just trying to release and let go. And you'll notice that neutral spine, the very small of your back, is slightly off the floor. And let's just take a moment here to keep your arms either at your sides, on your belly, or into goalposts. If goalpost is not easy for you, don't go here. Find a place of ease, comfort and ease. When we work to stabilize, it's important to work slowly, to learn how to find the ease in the body, to find the ease of the postures. Whenever you feel that you're done, I know some of you are saying, Pam, I'll never be done here. I like this pose. It's a wonderful pose to stay for maybe up to 10, 15, 20 minutes. Place your hands now on your below your rib cage. And as you exhale, contract right under the rib cage, pressing the ribs of the back body into the floor, and inhale, release. Now, as you press, you may also feel your feet pressing into the floor, as I do. You'll begin to notice that as you exhale and you press into the floor, the pelvis begins to rotate downward. So if you can now, as you exhale and you're contracting the ribs of the front of the body to the ribs of the back body, notice how the tailbone draws towards your heels and your feet press into the floor. When you go to release, the lower back comes off the floor and the pelvis starts to tip. So we're moving in and out of a pelvic tilt. The pelvis divides your body. If you were to keep doing this, if you were beginning to think about the pelvis as the central axis of your body, and you begin to hone in on what's happening in the pelvis itself, the legs become stronger and more stable. The torso becomes stronger and more stable. And I wish somebody 30 years ago when I was doing yoga had explained that to me. But whether I would be able to understand it or not, not sure. But now begin to, as you're journeying in here, go a little slower and begin to notice how the back of the neck begins to get longer and the shoulder blades also draw into the floor. When I go to release, not only does the lower back come off the floor, but my chin might also tip up. So for my purposes, I'm going to remove my little blanket. You may want to try this. And if you need it, you can always put it back. When I exhale, my chin draws down. And when I inhale, my chin draws up. So I am working the entire spine from the nape of the neck all the way down to my tailbone. Very important for stability. In all the years I have done yoga, when I was younger, not only did I not know where to put my pelvis, I didn't know where to put my head. So it's constantly adjusting myself. Don't have to do that if you're working in unison with your spine. Okay, last one. Now, no more movement. What I'd like you to do, I know some of you have a Courgeous ball. If you do have a purple Courgeous ball or a graphite one, put that between your knees. If you don't, you can take your blanket or your pillow and you can put it between your knees. If you have a block, you can put a block between your knees. Now, you're going to contract. So you're going to exhale, contract, doing the same thing. And notice how now your inner thighs pull in. Notice how your shoulder blades draw down. And then release. We're going to do that 2 more times. So as I exhale and I contract, begin to notice the shoulder blades pull in, pull down, the inner thighs pull in, and begin to notice that the buttocks, the internal edges of the buttocks, also are contracting. I'm still contracting. And then I'm going to release. Last time. As you pull in and contract, also notice that you can feel the transverse abdominal muscles, the hip joints pulling in, the ribs pulling in. Everything in the front of the body begins to pull towards center. As the shoulder blades draw in and your inner thighs draw in. Release. Take out whatever you have between your knees. Bring your knees up. Keep your knees hip width apart and parallel. Keep your feet in line with your knees. And rock side to side. And then raise your legs up to the ceiling or straighten your legs out in front of you. Stretch your arms overhead. And if you had your legs up, point your toes and press your heels, and then come into this position. Begin to again contract navel center to spine, tailbone draws down. Begin to feel the shoulder blades rolling into the floor and the entire front of the body pulling in, dropping the shoulders, and just release side to side, getting a nice big side stretch. Reaching your fingertips to the wall behind you, reaching your heel to the wall in front of you. And then come back to center. Bring the left knee into the chest and begin to make big circles. So as I go out, I'm straightening the leg, I'm bringing it back in. And then just come back to the floor, both feet on the floor. I want you to know, we're going to do that again. We're going to do both directions this time. This time, I want you to be aware of what is happening on the opposite leg, your right leg. So as I bring the left knee into the chest, contract the navel center, begin to feel everything moving into the center as you exhale to keep the right knee standing upright so that the right foot is pressing into the floor. You can keep your hands on your hip joints to feel what's happening in the hip joint. Is it easy to keep the right leg straight, or does it want to flop out? Let's go back in the other direction. We want to get mobility in the hip joints. And then release. Let's straighten the legs. Straighten the arms. Contract navel center to spine. Lengthen the front of the body and the back of the body and stretch. And notice the difference between your left side and your right side. Maybe you don't feel too much of anything, but maybe your entire left side feels a lot more open. And then come back to center. We'll take the right leg, and I'm going to have to move since I put my basket in my way. And let's work trying to keep now the left knee standing upright, moving in the right hip joint. And then it's the other direction. Now, if you're somebody that hears a lot of popping going on, there could be many reasons for that. One reason can be that you're actually really tight in here and you can feel what you're hearing is the connective tissue sliding over the ilium bone. Okay? That would be one of the things that can happen. And that's where the SI joint, the sacroiliac joint, is sometimes popping out because of tightness. So it's really important to get that contraction. And I know that that's very, at least it was for me, very challenging to get. Okay. Again, we're going to straighten the legs, straighten the arms, stretch one side longer than the other. And come back to center. Bring the knees into the chest. Open up your knees as wide as your armpits and rock side to side. And then we're going to take the feet and bring them together. Now, I understand that not everybody is comfortable with their feet in the air and holding their shins here. So you're welcome to put a block or a blanket or a pillow underneath your feet and have your feet on the floor. Doesn't matter. The work has to do with what's happening in the navel center to the pelvic floor. So notice what happens when you let go. And you begin to have neutral spine. So you feel like you're arching or going into a mild back bend. But then your shoulder blades press down into the floor and you get a very deep opening in the inner thigh muscle. So your inner thighs are releasing to your outer thighs. And you're really feeling like your hip bones are really opening. If I'm on the floor, the same thing's happening here as I now begin to contract. So now begin to feel the contraction of the navel center to spine and the ribs pulling in towards the center. And notice how you get this deep opening in the inner thigh. And you also might feel from the hip joint down to the inner knee. We really want to support those muscles that tend to be loose or tight. You know, they're not working properly. That create instability for us. Right? When you're ready, bring the knees back into the chest. Now we will all lift our legs and point and press and make rotations. And go back the other direction. Okay? Now we're going to take either a pillow, blankets, or our trusty block, and we're going to place it underneath our tailbone. This has become one of the standards for me. Nothing under your head, because it's a nice way of really lengthening the psoas muscle, which in a moment when we get up, I'll talk a little bit about. But place your hands right at the base of your sternum and then go over about an inch or two where we did sitting. This is the top of your psoas. Then take your hand down the inside of your hip joint and into your inner groin. This is the base of your psoas muscle. Okay? This is a very long muscle. So if I'm very rounded and hunched over all day, I'm actually tightening all of that, which goes into a lot of our internal organs that then doesn't work right. So we're going to bring our hands around our left thigh. We're going to push the left thigh away from our body. So don't bring the knee really close to the body. Push it away, feel the collarbones open, and straighten your right leg. Notice the sensations that you're feeling on your right side. And breathe. Whether you choose to contract or not, you can play and notice what differences you find in your body from working with a contraction and breathing in and out of that contraction, or no contraction. Take one more breath here. And then place both feet on the floor, letting everything let go, and then go to the other side. Creating the ability to allow the muscle around the joint to become strengthened, to work the connective tissue that gets tight, that creates that, oh, I have that pain right there. I wish I could just rub it out. This is what we're trying to get into, to find the way to stabilize ourselves and to create strength, so that when we are moving around, we feel much better. So can you feel the inner left thigh now? Does it feel strong? Is the dull H stronger? Are they less on this side? Just notice, because we are different. And then once you do that, bring both knees into the chest. You might have to put your feet down for a minute to adjust your block. And I want to do one thing here that I find very fascinating to me. Place your hands right on your ribs and inhale. And as the belly expands, notice how the legs move away from your body. They don't move too far. But then as you exhale, notice how the legs come towards you. You're not moving your legs. Okay, it's not like I'm moving my legs up and down, right? That's a whole nother posture. Here now, we're just contracting the navel center to the spine, lengthening the tailbone, and the legs come closer to us. When we inhale, the legs move away from us. This is how much our body is connected. So let's just do a few more here and pay attention to every inhalation, how the body expands. It moves, your legs and your torso move away from each other. And every exhalation, the torso and the legs move closer together. Okay. Then, let's open up our legs, because we've been sitting, it's nighttime, it's evening. Point your toes, press your heels. Sometimes I love to do this in the morning because I'm sleeping. And make rotations. And go in both directions. And then bring your legs together, come back down, remove the block. And let's just take our feet as wide as the mat. Nothing under your head still. Drop your knees from one side, inhaling them up, exhale to the other side. And I want you to notice, are you moving from your pelvis? Or are you moving from your feet? Or are you moving from your knees? You might not know, you're just moving, right? You're just moving the lower body. So now take your hands on your hip bones, right? And I want you to think about the right hip dropping to the left. And then inhale from your left hip joint, bring the knees up and drop from the left hip joint to the right. Lift the left hip joint up and notice how from here, from the hip joints, the legs begin to move. There's a relationship. And if you're like me, this is something when you've done yoga, you've never really thought about. The connections of the body. And in stabilizing yourself and creating more mobility, we want to really pay attention to where we're actually moving from. The next time we go to the left, let's just stay here. You want to put your arms out at your sides, that's fine, but keep the shoulders down. Contract the navel center. Feel the tailbone drawing downward. You're now going to feel your inner right foot pressing down into the floor, and you're going to feel more of the inner thigh. The knee's not trying to go down to the floor. The knee is actually stabilized in line with your hip joint. And let's just take 3 more breaths here to pay attention to that. And then put your hands on your hips, lift from the right hip joint, the knees come up, and they drop to the other side. So now as I contract and the tailbone draws down, I can feel the left inner foot pressing down, lifting the inner thigh. And I'm breathing. And then we'll lift from the left hip joint up, bring the knees into the chest, rock side to side. We're going to roll over to our side. And just come up to sit if you would, please. Begin to notice now as you press down, you're lifting up, right? Okay. And then when you're ready, we're going to come into table. If you're somebody who can't be on your hands and knees, no problem, just sit. You can sit up and do this. We're going to do cat and cow. Okay. If you're sitting in a chair or the floor, you're going to feel your sit bones moving back and forth. If you're coming into table, your hands are probably a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. You're going to draw the tailbone up and lift the heart. Feel the collarbones broaden. As you exhale and you pull the navel center to the spine, draw your chin down. Begin to notice how everything begins to pull into the center. So if you begin to pay attention to your hip joints and the navel center, as you inhale, you begin to feel everything expanding, and as you exhale, it pulls in towards each other. Last one. Some of you will feel this all the way up into your shoulder blades. All right. Let's take the right leg straight back. Press your hands into the floor, pull the belly in. Again, if you're sitting in a chair, you're gonna do the same thing that we're doing with the navel center, but you're gonna lift your right leg. So you're pulling the belly in, stabilizing the torso. Press your left shin into the floor and lift the back leg, pressing your heel to the wall. It's not about how far you go. It's about stabilizing the muscles and breathing. and then lower down. Cat and cow, just to release anything that might have gotten stuck. And then take your left leg straight out behind you, pull the belly in, contract, and lift. Come on down. Let's take our knees apart for child's pose. Sit back. And I know that some of you, again, have knee issues and you're not doing this posture. You can either go back onto your back, because this is about releasing the back, or if you're sitting in a chair, you can just bring your feet wider, bring your forearms onto your elbows. Forearms onto your elbows, that doesn't make sense. Forearms onto your thighs. So here we are in child's pose. Some of us might be down here. And we're going to just rock side to side. When you're done, come back up. Come back into table, but then take your hands, one handful up, turn your toes under, come into a downward facing dog. If you're not doing downward dog, we're just going to come up to standing, bend your knees, come up on your tippy toes, and then walk your feet to your hands. Oh, come up very slowly because you've been on the floor for a very long time. Now notice what it feels like to stand. Okay? So with our feet hip width apart and parallel, I just want you to feel, I want you to take your heels and press them apart. I'm going to go sideways so that you can see this in my body. If I press the heels apart, my torso lengthens. If I take my hands to the top of the psoas and I push my heels apart, you get taller, because now remember, there's a connection. If the pelvis divides the body and I'm supporting the pubic bone to the navel center and I'm pulling in, I'm stabilizing, I feel really strong on my legs become very active and my torso gets long. Okay? From here, shift over to your right leg, bend your left knee. Put your fingers on your lower ribs and your hip joints. As you exhale, contract the navel center. And notice that as the torso is getting taller, lifting out of the pelvis, the leg is getting stronger, pushing down into the floor. All right, and come to the other side. Thumbs on the ribs, fingers on the hip joints, pull in as you exhale, get nice and tall and long. So you begin to sense this connection. Let's go back to the other side. We're going to do tree. Some of you will just do tree with your heel over your ankle. Some of you will put it on your shin. And some of you will come up into your inner groin and bring your hands wherever you wish them to be. Wherever you are, you're going to feel the contraction. Some of you will need to put your fingers on a wall or on the back of a chair. Okay? So just take a moment here to find where you need to be. Be at a place where you can begin to feel this contraction that you felt on the floor. And if you need to, stay low, and as you contract, begin to feel the transverse abdominal muscles pulling into the center and then lifting you up. Okay? When you're done, you're going to come to the other side. Each side is different. So what you might find you need and how you have to express the posture may also be different. So as I contract, as I lift, as I feel pulled in, I begin to notice how strong I am. If I try to go too far, in other words, bringing your foot too high up, you might find you fall out of the posture, or you find that you can no longer figure out how to pull in. So that's the most important piece. All right, come on down. And let's take our feet a little wider, and let's just move from side to side here, lifting the opposite heel. So just to release everything that we've done. Okay? And then shake all that out. Bring your hands into prayer position. You're already in Uttanasana, so press the feet, push the heels away, getting nice and tall. Then take the palms and press them together and push them down towards the floor, keeping your elbows up. As you do this, notice how the collarbones broaden. The neck gets long. The muscles of the neck begin to become stronger, and the shoulder blades draw down. Now, if you're somebody who goes, yeah, Pam, that's not happening to me, I feel very tense, then bring your hands down here, and don't worry about pushing your palms together. Stay here and work in the pelvis. So if I'm working here, I get nice and tall, and my neck muscles get stronger because my shoulders draw away from my ears. My shoulder blades draw down. So wherever you are is fine. Okay? And from here, we're going to inhale the arms out to the side. You're still pressing the heels away. Come up and stretch one side longer than the other. And as you press one side longer than the other, press into that foot. So as you press down into the right foot, feel how long your right side of your body gets, dropping your right shoulder. And come to the other side. And we go back and forth, putting weight on either side, grounding, stabilizing, contracting, and release. Roll your shoulders up, back, and down. Interlace the hands, squeeze the shoulder blades together, bend your knees, and if you want to, come forward. And then inhale up. Right, we're going to come into Uttanasana, forward bend. And I want you to see if you can apply some of these principles that we're working on today into your forward bend. So the forward bend doesn't just become Uttanasana, just doesn't become, okay, I'm going to come forward. There's a very strong connection. So bring your hands into wherever you want to be with prayer position. Press your heels away from your body, again, feeling the tallness. Pull the belly in, begin to sense, and just if you don't have that awareness, just visualize the transverse abdominal muscles, the ribs coming in towards center, collarbones nice and broad and open. Inhale your arms out to the sides, halfway, turn your palms up, and come into goalposts. And goalposts gives us the ability to drop the shoulders and shoulder blades. From here, we'll take the arms out to the sides. Again, contract navel center, start to bend the knees, really pull in, pull in, pull in. Stick your butt out, stick your butt out. Place your hands on your thighs. And some of you will stay right here. The spine now is lengthening away from your pelvis. So the more I can contract the navel center, the more I can press the feet into the floor, the more I can feel the spine lengthening away from my pelvis. The sit bones start to lift. And if you're more flexible, as I am, the hip flexors begin to come forward. And that's what brings you lower. But your back is still long. And then from here, take your arms out to the sides. Use your legs to come all the way up. Let the fingertips touch and exhale down. Beautiful. That's a strong way of working. We can work to develop strength and release tension on the floor. And we can also do it from standing. We're going to do one more standing, and then we're going to come back to the floor. You may want to use a chair for this one. So I'm going to bring my trusty chair into the picture. And I'm going to go sideways for you. Some of you will, if you have blocks, if you have 2 blocks, you can use your blocks. If you have your body, you can always use your body. So we're going to take our feet wide. So I'm going to start with you this way. Turn your toes slightly in. Pull the belly in. This time we're going to bring the hands behind the skull. Press the hands into the back of the head and the head into the hands. And as you do that, pull the belly in. Notice how your elbows went back, your collarbones broadened, your shoulder blades came in towards each other. So that one action of bringing your hands behind your head and pulling the belly in made you very strong. And for those of you who have shoulder issues and you don't want to do that, just pull the belly in and see if you can get tall. You can also just put your hands on your shoulders this way. Now you're going to bend your knees. Your toes are pointed in slightly, not enough to pigeon toe. Push your knees away and hinge over. So this gets into the hip joints. And the hip joints open up the back and release us from our day. So if we're using a chair, we can rest our forearms on the chair, or you can take your hands down to your blocks here, whatever level you are, or onto the floor. Wherever you are, pull the belly in, lift through the heart, and bend your knees, and push your knees out towards your little toe. And then just go side to side. When you're done, place your hands back on your thighs, pull the belly in, use your legs. You're pushing into the feet to come all the way up. And if that's challenging, walk your toes, heels, toes, heels, toes, heels, and come all the way up. Okay, we're going to remove the chair again. Come to the front of your mat, bring your hands into prayer position, wherever that is for you. Inhale, and come forward into Uttanasana. Nice long spine, pulling in the lower abdomen. Walk your feet back into downward dog or come down into table. And drop down onto your knees. Cat and cow. And then if you wish, child's pose or roll onto your back. From here, I'm going to just put my water down here so I can get it later. From here, we're all going to come down to the back and have a strap. If you don't have a strap, have a tie. If you don't have that, that's okay. But if you have it, that would be preferable. You will probably have something under your head. I will not need my blocks here, so I'm going to move them. All right, and now you're laying on your back. Feet on the floor, knees up. And just take a moment in constructive rest pose to let go of your tailbone again. So we're not trying to contract now. We've done all that contracting. Now just let go and see if there's anything that's looser, or is there a little bit more ease at releasing. And then we're going to take the strap onto our right toes. So just take the strap right under the flanges of your big toes. So the strap is not on the instep, it's right under the balls, right down below the balls of the feet. Then we're going to take one hand on each strap. The thumbs are pointed up towards the ceiling. Now we're going to contract. So now notice what happens when I contract the navel center and the tailbone draws down. Notice how my leg lowers, because I'm trying to let go of my muscles. If you're thinking it's all about bringing your leg up here, as you can see, I can bring my leg really close. This is what destabilizes me. If I contract the navel center and I feel everything in the middle coming towards each other, even if it's a visualization, my leg comes further away. Once I have that contraction and I press through the heel towards the ceiling, I can then, if I'm flexible, then my leg wants to come up. Now I have a very deep stretch on the back of my legs. That's my hamstring. So be honest with yourself, be truthful, and just breathe into the backs of your leg. So from the pelvis, down through the heel cord, from your lower back up to the back of your head, you're breathing, stretching, lengthening. Stabilizing. And then take both straps into your right hand, put your left hand on your left hip, and bring your right leg out to the right. Now, if you have sacroiliac issues, very important to bring the opposite knee, in this case, the left knee, towards the right. So it's not being yanked out, it's being pulled in. And then bring the leg back to center, bend the knee, take off the strap.
let go. No more contraction. Constructive rest pose. Other side. So as I'm trying to figure out where my legs should go, I'm contracting the navel center, and I'm allowing the leg to lower itself because that's where it naturally wants to go. Once I can contract and I hold that contraction, so those transverse abdominal muscles are really coming in towards each other, keeping all of that so the tailbone doesn't curl up and extending my heel, I can bring my leg wherever it can go. Right now, my leg's not going further than that because I'm holding my contraction. If I let go of the contraction, my leg will come much closer to my chest. And breathe. As you exhale, keep letting go, feeling where you're grounding, where you're stabilizing, where you're strengthening, where you're stretching. And then begin to bring your left leg out to the left. Bring it back in, bend your knee, remove the strap. Breathe. We're going to cross the right ankle over the left knee for cradles. Now, if you are somebody who happens to be very tight in the hips, put a block underneath your left foot. And that might be all that you do. You can just be right here with a block underneath your foot. If you want to go further, you can lift your foot up, wrap your hands around your left thigh or shin, and contract the navel center to the spine, lengthening your tailbone down, broadening and opening the collarbones. Breathe. You might even feel neutral spine. Many years ago, when I had a lot of my SI joint issues, my lower back was flat on the floor because I had so much tightness there. So wherever you are, just be kind and compassionate and recognize where you are. This is where you are today. And what you do today helps get you to where you will be tomorrow. So stay with where you are, not where you think you want to be. Notice the stretch on the back of the right thigh. When you're done, release. Back to constructive rest pose. Let go, neutral spine. And then find your way to the other side. Again, notice the differences. Which way feels good to you? Now, that's a really important swap. Which feels better to you? I will also tell you that if you have a lot of tightness in the upper body, you might need a block or more than one blanket under your head. You might need to fold it a second time, but keep the collarbones open regardless of where you are. Breathing in and getting a stretch on the back of now your left thigh. And release. And take your feet as wide as the mat. Place your hands on your hip bones. Take the right hip, draw it over to the left. You can now take out the pillow if you wish. If you want, you can turn your head to the right. Take your arms out to the sides, and we'll take 5 breaths here. Contracting the navel center to the spine if you wish. Feeling the right inner foot pushing down. So the knees are going to the left. The upper body, the head is moving to the right. And then put your hands back on your hip joints, lift from the right hip, bringing the knees up and coming to the other side. Turning the head now to the left. If you want, you can keep your head straight. And then bring the knees back up. Straighten the whole body long. Stretch one side longer than the other. And then from here, take your left hand, take your right foot, put your right foot onto your left thigh. Take your left hand onto your knee. I'm going to bend that straight leg, and I'm going to draw the right knee towards, not going to go too far, just draw it towards the left. You can move your right arm wherever it needs to be, including moving it down to the side of your body. We'll just take a couple of more breaths here. And then bring the knee back up, and we'll just switch sides. So some of you might not be comfortable with your arm overhead. Maybe you're much more comfortable having your arm out to the side. And then release. We'll straighten both legs again. Straighten both arms. Stretch one side longer than the other. Bring the knees into the chest. Roll over to your side. We're going to come into Shavasana. So I'm coming up just to get what I need. So many of us will need some blocks underneath us. Not blocks. Blankets, the other B word. Blankets underneath you. If you want a bolster, have a bolster underneath you. If you need something under your head, have your pillow back. An eye pillow or a wash rag over your eyes. And take your arms out to your sides. You want to put something over you to cover you, feel free to do that now. And just take a moment to breathe right into the navel center. Now, this entire practice, we spent a lot of time focusing on really contracting everything and pulling everything into the center. So now, take your hands and place them on the top of your ribs, right at the base of the rib cage, and just pull the flesh apart. Just pull the flesh apart as you exhale, all the way down to the hip joints. It's just like it's like a little massage, and then let the arms just rest at your sides. And inhale, notice the expansion. You might feel it all the way up into the collarbones. So the entire front of the body expands. And then when you're finished with your inhalation, the exhalation just rolls right in. But unlike the practice that we just did, we're not contracting on the exhale. We're just exhaling. So you just allow the body to expand on the inhalation, natural rhythm. And as you exhale, you'll just notice everything releasing. You've done the work. Now it's time to just be. No more contracting, just letting go. Moving in to all the sensations in your being. Noticing all the points of contact, the back of the skull, the tops of the shoulders, the back of the arms, the back of the wrist, the back of your hands, the back of your shoulder blades, the top of the shoulder blade, the base of the shoulder blade. Notice the back of your pelvis. Notice the buttocks. Let go of any tension or holding in the buttocks. Notice how those hip joints, which in the practice were pulling together, now release the left to the left and the right hip to the right. Notice how the inner thighs release to the outer thighs. Notice how the toes turn outward as the heels turn inward. And notice how all you're doing now is just paying attention to your breathing as the floor now holds you. The breath stabilizes the body and the mind. Hari Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Begin to breathe a little deeper into the front of the body, bringing your awareness from the subtle energy deep inside of you to the outside edges of your body. Rock your head from side to side. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Begin to stretch your body any way you desire. Eventually bring the knees into the chest. Remain here for a moment just to notice all the sensations in your body as to what this practice feels like to you. And then as you feel ready, slowly press your hands into the floor. Find your way back into that sitting pose that we started class with. Knees are lower than your hips. Contract the navel center, lift through the heart, and just notice. Namaste.